right, folks, welcome to another edition of Outspoken. I'm Dan Sileo. What a weekend, right? We come off the week where we see the NFL drop its schedule. We're now so close now to the NBA Finals and NHL Finals, right? And we're 40 games in to the Major League Baseball season. We're starting to see a little separation on some of the teams, especially in the National League. And we're starting to see what teams are going to start spreading their wings on maybe being a contender for Major League Baseball. Also, again, too, PGA Championship going on. But first, let's start it off with that NFL schedule. So, the National Football League came out with their primetime games. They also came out with all the games that we're going to see during the holidays. But guess what? There were 5 teams that were left out of the primetime games. They are the Miami Dolphins, the Raiders, the Titans, the Jets, and the Cardinals. These are the worst-run franchises in the NFL. There's no coincidence when you look at ownership. Every single one of these owners, you're looking at Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, one of the worst owners in pro football. Look at the salary cap hell that they're in because of the Tua Tagovailoa deal. You look at the Bidwells with the Cardinals. The Cardinals have not been good but once in over 100 years. You look at the Raiders. Mark Davis is not Al Davis. That Raider team for the last 20 years has been a train wreck. Oh, but hey, Tom Brady's there, and I'm sure with all his laser focus, when he's not there all the time, that's going to turn that franchise around. And then, of course, you've got the legendary New York Jets. Oh, yeah, baby, Fireman Ed. He's there for the rescue. Woody Johnson has owned that football team for 25 years. And he's got 15 straight seasons where this guy hasn't had a playoff sniff. They're not going anywhere because it's so poorly run. You got Mike North, though, the vice president of football broadcasting, coming out and saying, hey, listen, just because those teams are not in the primetime spots, our 425 window is the most important window. And you're like, dude, why can't you just admit you got 5 crappy owners? You really got more, but those 5 crappy teams, NFL fans don't want to see. They don't want to see train wrecks like those organizations. You got the Titans involved with that, with the Adams family. How appropriate. What have they done since they've been in Nashville? They've been good all but 1 year when Jeff Fisher was there. Look, NFL has a great way of protecting their own. There's no doubt 32 owners are not going to look and throw shade at any of those 5 guys who don't have prime games. Fans are looking at wanting to see the best product, and the NFL wants to do that as well. Jets bring you nothing. Raiders bring you nothing. And again, the National Football League would sit there and try to tell you, well, our 425. By the way, they're not wrong, but just admit it. Your 425 window is a great window. But your football teams here with 0 prime time? I mean, guys, this is exactly what the National Football League loves to do. They love to throw shade at certain areas so the media can grab a hold of and say, wait a minute here, 425. But you got to remember something, too, about the NFL. They're never going to ever take a crap on the worst teams in the league. In their eyes, the NFL is as strong as the weakest link. Do you understand something? When all this money is being divvied out, whether you have a primetime game or whether you don't have a primetime game, every NFL team splits with profit sharing right down the middle. So it really doesn't matter. If the Jets or the Dolphins or the Raiders or the Cardinals or the Titans aren't on TV in primetime, it doesn't really matter. You could be 17-0 or 0-17, and the teams make the same money. That's why the National Football League is king. Being in prime time, that's for you and me. That's for television ratings. That's for holding these networks hostage for the NFL. NFL is classic, and when you're looking at what games you're going to see on the holidays, 0 prime time games for New York City, for Miami, and for Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Nashville. They just built a brand new stadium in Nashville, and it's going to open up in 27. And they're talking about putting a Super Bowl there. You got to be kidding me. NFL, they know what they're doing, especially when it comes to promoting their league. All right, so let's get over to Deion Sanders now. So, hey, right out of the Deion Sanders playbook on race baiting, it's a perfect way for Deion to get back in the news. Surely can't be because of the winning there at Colorado or the lack thereof. He's got to make it so now it's more about his kid. I want to get the right quote here now, and I want to make sure I get this right. Scars are on Shedeur Sanders' back for the process of the NFL draft and how he's had to endure going through the NFL draft and dealing with playing in Cleveland. Well, this is just in here, Deion. Welcome to the NFL. For the first time in Shedeur Sanders' life, maybe he has to earn something. There's even a conversation where Deion has come out saying, well, guess what? We're going to have a conversation with Todd Monken, and I want to know exactly football conversation on where Shedeur Sanders fits in the Cleveland Brown organization. What does this have to do with you? Let the kid go out and earn his own way. You know, you carved it out for him at Jackson State. You carved it out for him in Colorado. You can't carve it out for him in the NFL. There's a reason he fell to the 5th round in the draft. There's a reason he's not starting in Cleveland. You know what that is? He's not good enough. Hey, albeit, I would do the same thing for my kid. I'd carve the yellow brick road out too. I really would. Same thing with LeBron and Bronny. I get it. But at the end of the day, you got to walk down that yellow brick road by yourself. Hey, this just in, Deion. How about some winning in Colorado? You're 16-21 since you've taken the reins there at Colorado. You're, 9-18 in conference play. You didn't have one player drafted in the National Football League's draft. How about winning some ball games? He is a complete polar opposite of what we saw with Curt Cignetti. Remember all the people like Skip Bayless saying that Deion was going to win a national championship in Boulder? Well, guess what? Here we are. Curt Cignetti's done it. Curt Cignetti went from James Madison. Okay? By the way, James Madison also made the 12-team tournament. Curt Cignetti left that program in such great shape. That school and that program made the 12-team college football playoff. What does Cignetti do? He goes to Indiana, the worst program in American college football history. And what does he do? He goes on and wins the national title. What has Deion done in Boulder? What has he done in Boulder? They're 16-21. We were told they would win a national title. They're so far from winning a national title. Listen, has he brought some prominence to the program? Has he brought some YouTube and some X viral hits to the program? Absolutely. But remember something about Colorado. Colorado under Bill McCarthy had won a national title. There was some history there of really good football. When you're looking at Curt Cignetti, there was no history at Indiana. He goes on and wins a national championship. And make no mistake about it, everyone was expecting Deion to do what Cignetti did at Colorado, and that ain't happening. All right, my great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the #1 injury law firm in all of America for a reason. That's because they win. With over $30 billion recovered, folks, I tell you, this company was built by Ultima John Morgan, and they give you nothing but the best. Hey, like the family in Pennsylvania that was offered $650K, they got $26 million in settlement. Or the family in Florida that was offered $350,000, they got nearly $12 million in settlement. Go to forthepeople.com/Big Sills or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/Big Sills or pound law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sills sent you. We'll talk some PGA golf next with Brady Kannon right here on SportsGrid. All right. When I grew up, the PGA Championship was the last championship on the calendar, right? Now I've got to kind of like move it around a little bit here. It's like Seattle now being, in a different conference now. You're like, hang on here for a second. Or it's like the Houston Astros being in a different division. I got to look at the PGA title and go, wait, it's before the United States Open? Brady Kannon joins us now here. And Brady, do you like that they moved the fourth major? Well, we consider it the fourth major before the United States Open.
Well, I do and I don't. I used to love what they termed glory's last shot. Remember that when, it was the last major of the year, you had one more shot to capture a major championship. But I think and the way the schedule's changed and everything, I do applaud the PGA Tour for changing it, because now you have the FedEx Cup playoffs. The PGA would kind of be wedged in there in a tough spot. And really, Dan, as so many things are in sports, this was dictated by the NFL. And I thought the PGA Tour did a great job of getting out of the way of the NFL. Their season basically starts when the NFL season is ending, and vice versa. Their season ends when the NFL is basically beginning. So I think they did a good job with that. It's not perfect yet. I mean, there's been too many high profile events in the last 6 weeks. We've had like 5 signature events and 2 majors or whatever. I mean, that's got to be spread out a little bit, but I'm okay with the PGA. I think it's here to stay because, again, the golf season has adjusted to stay out of the way of football. And I think it's actually a pretty smart move. I think it's done the tour well.
And how about this too, Brady? And now you look at the PGA Championship now with a $20 million purse. That means all 4 majors now are over $20 million in purse. Shows you the health of golf right now. Is that because of the demise of LIV, you think, a little bit?
Little bit, sure. Yeah, I mean, they absolutely got a shot in the arm, did the PGA Tour, when we kind of heard that LIV was on its last leg and maybe doesn't even have any legs left after this season, which is fine. And I don't necessarily care that LIV goes away. It can be a good league for guys like Graham McDowell and Lee Westwood and the stars of yesteryear. Maybe it's kind of a middle ground between the PGA Tour and the Champions Tour. And you want to go play a couple of years and do that, that's fine. Growing the game, it actually kind of has. It's grown the purses, to your point, in the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour players got paid in response to LIV. Now LIV's going to go away, which we kind of maybe expected would happen eventually. And Koepka's back and Reed's on his way back, and who knows who's next. But I think it's been fine. And in the end, the best players are where they should be, in my opinion.
What do you make of the PGA Championship? Do you like the track outside of Philly? There was a lot of complaints about the greens. That was kind of like the equalizers. Scheffler and also Rory talked about those greens. What did you make of it and how it was set up for the 4 days, especially heading into Championship Sunday?
I think it's been fantastic, Dan. I mean, it hasn't, there's nothing like the back 9 at Augusta, right? Which just seems to produce so much drama. It's perfect every year, it seems. But I believe Aronimik has been really good, and Kerry Hay has done yet another outstanding job in setting this golf course up. The fairways are wide enough, so it's not like a U.S. Open, but the rough is penal enough where it's going to make you work. There's bunkers everywhere that are very difficult and challenging, and where they are placed in greenside. And then, of course, the greens. That's a Donald Ross signature trait of his design, ultimately feeling that championships were to be decided on and around the greens, the scrambling and the chipping and the putting. The greens are a lot like Augusta National, not quite as fast, but the humps and the bumps. And a lot of times I think these guys like Rory and Scotty and John Rahm's been very diplomatic about it. I thought they kind of want to poke holes and nitpick when they're not shooting 62. When life is difficult, they want to find something that's wrong, maybe other than their putting or their ball striking or what have you. But as a fan, with 40-some guys within 4 shots of the lead and these names on this leaderboard, I think it's been outstanding. And whether you like the setup or not, the entertainment value and what we've got in front of us on Championship Sunday, we might have a 6-man playoff on our hands today. I think it's been electric as far as an entertainment perspective.
You know, Brady, I've made this comment. We had Rocco Mediate on with us yesterday. If Rory wins another major championship, would you consider him the greatest international player? And that's Gary Player. That's some lofty names right there when you're talking Gary Player. Do you think he becomes the greatest international player? He's arguably the greatest European player already. And you're talking another major championship. I believe that would give him 7, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, does he make that strong argument?
He does, and I'd have to put him. You know, the other guys that are in that conversation are probably Sevi Ballesteros, Nick Faldo. You mentioned Gary Player, of course. He's got the career Grand Slam, as we know. He's added a second Masters. He's got 2 PGAs, I believe. This would be a third. So, you know, for me, Dan, it's a little bit like the Tiger and Jack argument. Tiger was more dominant for a short period of time, probably the most dominant electric player we've ever seen. But I think Jack was the greater champion. He did it for 30 years. And I think the competition that Jack had was tougher and yada, yada, yada. We can go through all the arguments. But Rory has been absolutely a stunning player for, 20 years now? Gary Player, Faldo, these guys, Rory's not done yet. These guys did it for a long period of time, but it's hard to argue against Rory's impact. He's done it with an exclamation point.
Absolutely. Here, 30 seconds here. The greens, do you think they are fair? I mean, major championships usually, like U.S. Open, is the rough, and it looks like in this event here, it's the greens that are the equalizer. Do you think they've been fair?
I do. I mean, I know they're putting these pins in difficult positions, but you've got to set up hey, look at, Kurt Kitayama's out there today shooting 6 under par. Michael Kim yesterday. I mean, Alex Smalley, your leader, made 6 birdies in the last 10 holes or something like that. So there are birdies out there to be had. You just have to hit the right spots on these greens. John Rahm said, safe haven is typically just hitting the middle of the green. It's not true here. The middle's not necessarily the right spot here at Aronimink. I think it's been a great challenge. It's just something different. And sometimes people aren't always amenable to change.
Absolutely. We're going to continue more of our conversation with Brady Kannon here. And I want to revisit that live conversation. What's next for those guys? We'll do that next right here on SportsGrid. Boy, I'll tell you what, we had a conversation yesterday with Rocco Mediate, and we were talking about the live guys, and we got Brady Kannon with us here, and he made a comment about Phil Mickelson and some of these live guys. He doesn't think it's going to be that easy for these guys to get back on the tour. Some may have to qualify again. Some may just be left in the wind and not allowed to come back and play at all ever. And I want to start it off with Bryson DeChambeau. Your opinion. Rocco says he doesn't believe he should be brought back ever, and he's just going to be on his own here. Do you believe that as well, that the PGA should not allow him back on tour?
Well, it's an interesting question, and I love Rocco, and we all remember basically the crowning moment, if you will, the last moment of his career, going to that playoff with Tiger at Torrey Pines. That was really awesome. It's kind of a little bit like Patrick Reed, who was a great villain. People love to hate Patrick Reed, but I think he's great for golf, and he's kind of changed his tune a little bit. And now he's coming back to the tour and he's competing in majors. He's got a chance to win another one here today at Aronimink. Bryson has become a villain, took down Rory at Pinehurst in 2024. And, he's very polarizing. It feels like it's either love or hate him. And he absolutely moves the needle. We know he's, what is he officially an influencer now on YouTube? I don't know what the kids call it these days, Dan, but I mean, he draws ratings. So I think from that standpoint, it's hard for the PGA Tour to avoid him because he makes for theater. He makes people tune in. If you've got Rory and Bryson and Scotty and John Rahm and Ludwig Goldberg and Patrick Reed and these guys, Colin Morikawa, coming down the stretch on a Sunday at a major championship, that's great TV. So it's hard to say no to that. But outside of that, yeah, I understand where Rocco's coming from. He's not making a lot of friends these days and hasn't probably for the last couple of years.
How about the damage that Mickelson's done on his reputation here? I think you're going to move forward, and there's going to be question whether or not he'll be an official starter one day. I mean, obviously, right now you have Watson and you have Jack and you have Player, and I'm sure in the future you may have Faldo, Tiger, and then who? You would assume that would have been Phil, but how much of a reputation bang has lived onto his resume and to his stature in the PGA?
Unfortunately, Dan, I think it's partially ruined it. Phil. It really kind of baffles me how beloved he still is because he's really fallen off in my mind. It's hard to respect the man. I personally know, some of the people here in Las Vegas that he is, had disagreements with, specifically Billy Walters. And, I worked for Mr. Walters, and that didn't go over well with Phil. And so he's gambling. Who cares? I live in Las Vegas. That can be a problem, but I'm not going to persecute someone just for that. Now, apparently he's cleaned up some of those issues. I don't really know, but I think he's done a lot of different things over the years to tarnish his reputation. And it seems like he's kind of at a low point right now. I know he's dealing with some family issues that I don't wish upon anybody, like him or not. And that's a tough thing. And that I don't believe influences at all his reputation. That's aside from that. But there have been a lot of things in the game that I think have turned a lot of people off, the live being one of them. And not just so much the live, Dan, but also, the lack of sincerity. We're doing it to grow the game. Why don't you just come out and say you needed the money, Phil? I mean, people would accept you and respect you more. Like Dustin Johnson said, he goes, hey, it's a pretty nice retirement egg. And everybody loves DJ. And I love him because he was honest. And here he is now competing in the Masters and some recent major championships. And, I think people have come to feel better about him in the last couple of years, despite everything. But it hasn't gone that way for Phil.
All right. Well, I do have to ask you, who do you like coming in and holding up that trophy on Sunday at the PGA Championship?
I tell you, our man Ludwig Goldberg, I think, is in a pretty good setup right now where he is actually number one in this field for strokes gained tee to green. He's third for strokes gained off the tee, third for strokes gained approach. but he can't putt. He's 74th out of 82 people in this field. He's 74th for putting. If he just putts average today, Dan, he'll win. And other guys that fall into that category are Patrick Reed, Minwoo Lee, maybe John Rahm. All of those guys are hitting the golf ball extremely well, but they just can't hole a putt on these greens that we've talked about. If any of those guys can find a hot putter for about 9 holes or so today, they could be your champion.
Boy, could you see Rory winning another championship? I mean, the ratings again would be insane. I appreciate you, Brady. Thank you so much.
Guys, Xander Schauffele, the San Diego State Aztecs. Let's go San Diego.
Jay Bilas next here on SportsGrid. Boy, I'll tell you, every time I get Jay Bilas on the program, man, we go into some really great conversations. And I saw Jay yesterday at a USA basketball camp, Academy for Coaches, and he was there talking to all the coaches there, and he was really giving an inspirational speech. He joins us now here. Jay, all the things that you've done in your career, covering the sport, playing the sport, I mean, what are some of the biggest takeaways that you ever have that you can, give as influence for coaches, and you could motivate for coaches? And what do you take away when you do these type of camps?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think the profound influence that coaches can have upon players with their belief in you and how they model behavior and relationships you have with your coaches and your teammates. I've always found coaching to be a really noble profession. But when you start thinking about what high school coaches say, they say that, only 5% of their players go on to play beyond high school. And to me, that means that there's an important responsibility for all youth coaches to make those experiences of their players a positive one. Because while those players may not go on to play beyond high school, they may be future high school coaches or administrators or coach in college or BADs or things like that. And the behaviors that you model as a coach, I think, can really influence them for how they handle themselves with future generations.
Coach, the coaching, like you just said, is so important here. But Jay, How do you do that in today's landscape when you don't have the time with transfer portals now to build that type of culture and have that kind of influence on players? In years past, Jimmy Johnson was a massive influence because I had him for 3 years. Some of these guys have coaches for 3 minutes. How do you build that influence and how do you get and communicate with kids these days when you've got such transient kind of situations with these kids moving the way they do?
Dan, I mean, I respect the question, but that's an excuse. Players have had, or coaches have had players for a year and they have great relations with them and they teach and coach. It really doesn't change anything. And would it be better if we could all stay together and hold hands for 4+ years together? Yes. I think what the lack of continuity in players really does is it changes the influence that older players have upon younger players. So when you've got a senior who's been in the system for a while, that's a big influence on a younger player. But like, look, coaches in the NBA deal with players coming and going all the time. They still have great relationships. They still have a system. They still are demanding without being demeaning. That's not a problem. What's happening now with college sports is 100 years of violating federal antitrust laws caught up with them, and the courts won't let them do it anymore. And now they have to share some compensation with the players, and the players are exercising some freedom, and the system doesn't like it. So you hear a lot of coaches complain and talk about the way it used to be. I liked it better 20 years ago. I liked it better 30 years ago. Well, did you like what you got paid back then? Because you got paid a heck of a lot less back then. Coaches are making $6, $7, $8 million now. And when I hear coaches say, I think it was Dan Hurley recently, I don't think he was complaining when he said it. I just think he was trying to be factual, but saying that his roster was going to cost the university $14 million. Well, the coaches make more than that. And in what universe in a multi-billion-dollar industry do the players make less than the coaches? And that's true of football and basketball. The Ohio State's roster doesn't. The players don't make as much as the Ohio State football coaching staff. And so while they're complaining about money, they've been paying themselves exorbitantly for a long time, and now it's time for the players to share. So I find that this thing about how do you build a culture and all that, they can do it just fine. That's more of an excuse to me.
Jay, I think that nil is good for the college game. Maybe you disagree with this, and I'll tell you why. For me, I'm going to stay in college. If I'm at the University of Miami, Jay, I'm not leaving to go take a shot at the NFL if I'm a third, fourth, or fifth rounder. If I'm making $600,000 in Coral Gables, I'm going to sit there and keep that money, and I'm going to stay in college. To me, I think this is going to make the game better in some aspects. Now, it may separate the haves from the have-nots more because of what you have with nil with football programs and basketball programs. But do you agree or disagree? I think you're going to see more competitive basketball and more competitive football when you have guys staying in college like the old days.
We've already seen it, Dan. Players are staying longer. The number of early entry candidates going to the NBA draft has dropped dramatically largely because of that reason. And now football, because of the way the collective bargaining agreement works in the NFL, they have to stay 3 years. There's no other option for a football player other than to play in college before they go into the NFL. I mean, it used to be 4 years, and the reason that it went to 3 after your junior year, because the USFL in the 1980s started drafting juniors, and the NFL had to react. It wasn't that somehow they thought that juniors are now big and strong enough and mature enough to play in the NFL. It was strictly a business decision that they made. But look, we've already seen this haves versus have-nots thing. We've already seen that it's affecting the haves negatively. In what universe would Indiana have won a national championship in football without players being compensated? They wouldn't have.
True.
And that's why you've seen some of these coaches that were older moving on. It wasn't because they couldn't have the culture they wanted or anything like that. They couldn't stockpile players the way they used to. That's why they left. So, I think it's much better now. And not to mention that it's actually approaching fairness now, where, for all these years, these universities have been making money hand over fist off these players and limiting the players to their detriment. And now the players are able to benefit. And we've seen players make great decisions. You know, they're financially literate now. They have deals that are benefiting them with the opportunity to build generational wealth, and that's nothing but a good thing.
How about the transfer portal? And also, what I like is that you can now transfer. You don't have to sit out. And like coaches, when they can just pick up Jay and leave and go somewhere, leave a kid in the lurch, they coach the next year. I've always been against that as well. But the transfer portal, do you think there needs to be guardrails? Or do you like the fact that, again, the toothpaste is out of the container right now? These guys want to try to put this stuff back in. How do you see this transfer portal? Do you like it, or do you think there needs to be guardrails?
Well, guardrails to me, and I'm not saying you, but when the NCAA says guardrails, they're saying restrictions. And they want restrictions on athletes that are in their favor. Because where are the guardrails that keep coaches in place so that they don't sign a multi-year contract, recruit players, and then leave? There are no guardrails. The only thing they want guardrails on is players. As you know, the transfer portal was created by the NCAA. It wasn't foisted upon them by some judge or some court ordering the transfer portal. They created it. And what principle would any restriction be based on? Like if they want players to stay, then sign them to multi-year contracts where it's the player's choice, or have a collective bargaining agreement where it's the player's choice in agreeing to the quote unquote guardrails you're talking about. But it strikes me as nuts that we say tampering with regard to a player who's not under contract, and then LSU goes and takes Will Wade or Lane Kiffin, and they're paying a buyout to the guy they fired, a buyout to the guy they hired, and then they're saying, boy, we need guardrails with the players when the coaches portal is always open. That's a contradiction to the point of hypocrisy.
Absolutely. Here we're going to have more of a conversation. We're going to do some NBA. Couple minutes here with our friend Jay Bilas. We'll continue that as well. And he's right. I mean, it's out of the container, folks. And nil in transfer portal, getting people upset. I'm with Jay. I've been one of the guys with him back in the past that said, hey, man, it's about time we start paying these players here. And now people don't like it. More with Jay Bilas. We'll do that next. Keep it right here on SportsGrid.
You wouldn't have your ex officiate your wedding.
Do you, Jake? Liar? Cheater? Gaslighter?
So why have anyone but America's largest injury law firm handle your injury case? With over $30 billion recovered for our clients, there's a reason to go big.
Gaslighter, coitus crier, he's got more red flags than a bullfighter's attire.
Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Always a great conversation with Jay Bilas from ESPN here. And Jay, what was your takeaway on 5 transfers for the University of Michigan? All 5 guys on the starting lineup were transfer guys. What was your takeaway on that? Good for the game?
Well, I think to your earlier point, it's not good or bad for the game. It's just the way it is. But to your earlier point, how do you build a culture when guys are in and out? Well, Dusty May did it. I mean, it can't be that hard. He did it. But 3 of those guys, Yaxel Lendeborg transferred in from UAB. What are we to tell a guy like Yaxel Lendeborg, who was under-recruited out of high school and was one of 2 players the year before this last one that led their team in scoring, rebounding, assists, steals, and blocks? He and Cooper Flagg. We supposed to tell him, because you started at UAB, you have to stay there, when nobody even knew who you were. But you have a chance to go to Michigan and do something special where everybody's going to know who you are and you're going to be a first-round draft pick. Is he required to stay there? Is that one of the guardrails the NCAA wants? And, Elliot Cadeau played 2 years at North Carolina. He put his time in there. And the truth is, the fans complained about him the whole time he was there. And he heard it, and he goes to Michigan. He's the most outstanding player. Morez Johnson Jr. didn't play very much at Illinois. Now he got hurt. But are those guys supposed to stay in a situation that's not working out for them? You can do it a bunch of different ways. You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word. I don't see how and not you, but I don't see how people have such a hard time wrapping their heads around players are going to do what's in their best interest, and they should.
Just so you know, Jay, I transferred and it was the greatest thing ever happened to me when I went from Maryland to the University of Miami. So I'm 1,000% for these guys. How about this, the tournament, 68-76? I mean, I don't remember anybody really barking saying, I want more teams in the NCAA tournament. Do you think they're going overboard with it, or do you think more teams should be involved in the tournament?
Honestly, Dan, I don't think it matters. Nobody's going to care. They did this for money, and it's more money that you can make off the tournament and revenue and all that. And I'm not bothered by doing something for more money. I think a lot of people do that. If they were only doing it for money to the detriment of the long-term health of the tournament, I'd say something. I don't think they needed to do it. Nobody's clamoring for it. It's not going to improve the tournament one bit, but it's not going to hurt it either. And the truth is, most people don't care until the Thursday of the 64-team bracket. That's when the overwhelming majority of fans, myself included, believe the tournament really starts. Anything before that's a play-in. And to me, what difference does it make whether it's 4 play-in games or 8 play-in games? It's all the same. I don't think it's particularly fair to the teams that have to wait to find out who their opponent is when other teams in the 64-team bracket find out a little bit earlier. But I don't have a problem with it overall. It's fine.
Let me go over to the NBA with you here. How surprised are you in the play of Jalen Brunson? And if I'm not mistaken, correct me here, Jay, wasn't he a second rounder out of Nova? I mean, have you been surprised with how he's elevated his game? I know he didn't want to leave Dallas, but man, he is just killing it in New York. Have you been surprised with his play?
I think everybody who watched Jalen play in high school, college, and after has to admit they're surprised at not that he's been successful in the NBA. That's not a surprise, but the level at which he plays, all NBA level. I don't think anybody saw this coming, including Jay Wright, his coach. You don't want to put limits on anybody, but pleasantly surprised. But you could say the same thing about somebody like Draymond Green out of Michigan State. He got drafted in the 30s. When he came out, I think that was 2011 or so. You have to be a little surprised at some of this stuff. We think we know, you have beliefs, but you really don't know. But that's about as pleasant a surprise as you can get. And especially watching him play with his group right now, they've got a legitimate shot, I think, to win a championship this year.
All right, Jay, I'm one of those stupid Knick fans from way back. Red Holtzman, 73. We're all barking that stuff. I mean, is it possible this Knicks team could get to the finals and win it? I mean, can they win it with this group of guys?
Yes. And I think especially, the Western Conference gets a lot of attention because there were so many outstanding teams in the West. But the truth is only one team's coming out of there. Now, I happen to think it was going to be Oklahoma City. We'll see what San Antonio has to say about that, because San Antonio is an incredibly difficult matchup for any team, but they've proven a difficult matchup because of Wembanyama for Oklahoma City. But the Eastern Conference champion they only have to beat one Western Conference champion team. They only, the winner of that's going to take care of everybody else. And last year, Oklahoma City got taken to 7 games by Indiana, and Tyrese Halliburton got hurt in Game 7. So who knows what would have happened. So absolutely they can win, and especially at the level they're playing. I mean, look at the last 7 games, they're beating teams by an average of like 23, 24 points a game. It's been historic. You just hope for their sake that having all this time off doesn't take away some of their edge. But they're playing great, and I don't put it past them to be able to win this thing. They can do it.
You know what, Jay? I don't think there's any coincidence we look at San Antonio and Oklahoma City. You see Sam Presti, who built that team there in Oklahoma City. He's a product of what you had in San Antonio with RC. I mean, this just shows you how great run organizations are, right? Player development, finding the right coach. It's incredible. 30 seconds here. I mean, not a surprise OKC and San Antonio are in the Western Conference Finals.
They've been patient, and they've had a plan, and they've stuck to it. And they're not changing their front office personnel and their coaching personnel on a whim. You do, and I'm not saying everybody's doing it on a whim, but you do see a lot of firings and change, and we got to get somebody to get us to the next level, and they've stuck with it, both those franchises. And I agree. I don't think it's any surprise that they're where they are. And Oklahoma City and San Antonio are not going anywhere. They're going to be competing for championships for quite a while now.
Absolutely. Jay, thank you so much, my friend. It is always great catching up with you. Thank you. Sileo says next here on SportsGrid. All right, folks, this has to be one of the wildest times when it comes to the NCAA, when it comes to college football. Make no mistake about it here. I thought this past week I was watching The Real Housewives of New Jersey when I was listening to Lane Kiffin at LSU. I was listening to John Summerall at Florida and Steve Sarkisian at Texas. These guys were going back and forth like they were like The View. I mean, we saw this scenario play out this past week where you had Lane Kiffin bitching at Ole Miss, and he still has a cow with Ole Miss because Ole Miss did not allow him to coach in the 12-team college football tournament. So what does he do? He brings up some shade when it came to Ole Miss's past and how they recruited. Then Steve Sarkisian jumped in and started making comments that all you had to do at Ole Miss is take basket weaving. Folks, again, these two dudes here this past week brought shame to themselves. Look, the SEC, in my opinion, is the best college football conference in the country. The best players in the country come from the Southeastern Conference. You don't need to be barking like this. Listen, Steve Sarkisian, win a game that matters. Lane, win a game that matters. Hey, Lane, do me a favor. Show me a place where you have won outside of a Southeastern Conference program like Ole Miss. You didn't win at Tennessee. You didn't win with SC. You didn't win with the Raiders. You were a joke with the Raiders. Now you get this LSU job. Hey, dude, let me put it to you this way. You are not Kurt Cignetti. Cignetti went to James Madison. Then he went to Indiana. My next guest coming up in a couple minutes here, Bill Goldberg, went to Georgia. He knows as well as I do. Indiana, me and him would have laughed at that program asking us to go and play college football there. They win a national title. Lane, win a title. You haven't even won a Southeastern Conference championship yet. I mean, look, these guys were crying and moaning. I thought I was watching The View. Look, my guy, Ed Ogeron, one of the greatest coaches. I love him. Truly one of the greatest recruiters I've ever seen in college football. He even made the comment, guys, worry about playing on Sunday. I'll tell you what I can't wait for. September 19th, Ole Miss is going to be hosting LSU. Let me tell you about the SEC and those rivalries down there. If you think the folks in Oxford are going to be kind to Lane rolling back, and bringing that guy back into the building there, and he was bitching and moaning like that. Hey, Lane, one thing I found out about, too, was hot yoga. I found out why Lane was there leaving and wanted to leave Ole Miss. I found out hot yoga. You know what that is? That's all the co-eds that he was DMing behind the scenes and getting all those co-eds with hot yoga. I learned what hot yoga was. Lane, just something here for you, bro. Win some football games that matter. He's still bitching because Ole Miss said no to this. Get this. Hey, I want you to coach in the college football playoff tournament, but you can still recruit for LSU. I'm not doing that either. Here, I'm going to have you recruit my guys out of my building to LSU, and I'm going to be sitting calling kids around the country and doing this. Hey, why don't you come play at LSU? Ole Miss has a racial history. Hey, last time I checked, Alabama was in segregation too back in the 60s. That stuff doesn't matter anymore. You know why? Because a college football kid today, hey, maybe to a guy like Bill Goldberg and myself, that mattered back in 81, which it really didn't. But today, here's what matters to me. Ole Miss, how much you paying me? $800,000? Sign me up. I'm ready to rock. Dude, kids today don't give a crap about the history of the SEC or the history of what happened 35, 40 years ago. The only thing they care about is this. How much you going to pay me? And am I on TV? And do I get to see the honeys? And in the SEC, baby, you get all three of them things. And you get to check mark all of them off. So don't talk to me about sitting around barking at one another like I'm watching The View. Like the Real Housewives of like New Jersey Shore. You're kidding me, right, dude? I mean, look, that's pretty rich coming from Lane and Sarkisian. Don't you remember Sark? Sark barking when he was at a USC event going, fight on, Fight him! Hey, dude, he was hammered at the event and they blew him out. Guys, go win some games. The SEC, in my opinion, is still the preeminent college football conference in America, and that will never change. You know how you know that? Check April every year when the NFL draft comes out, and all you see is all those dudes going out from the SEC and going into the National Football League's draft. They all come from the Southeastern Conference. Win some games, Lane. We're all good. One of the legendary men in wrestling history, WCW, WWE, my friend, Bill Goldberg is next. We will talk with him. You keep it right here on SportsGrid. You know, you talk about Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers. Make no mistake about it. I will promise you, there is no better character in history than this man here. Bill Goldberg joins us now here on SportsGrid. How you doing? No, what the hell
Back
is
in
that?
Texas, I can tell you that. I am back in Texas.
Bill, is that what you're doing in retirement? Hang on, July 12th, I believe, 2025, you called it a career. And how's it going? Are you itching to get back into the ring, or how's your retirement going?
Man, when you're in the wrestling business, I don't think there's anything. There is no retirement until you're dead. So, am I itching to get back in? No. Am I itching to continue to, be out in the world and make a difference? Absolutely. So I've kind of turned my focus to veterans, the kids, and the emasculation of modern man. So I got a couple things on my plate right now, for sure.
Absolutely. By the way, now wait, you got a couple things on the plate. I want to get this right. You were in Memphis for the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest. So this is where, wait, you go, wait a minute, from being on the top rope to doing a barbecue contest in Memphis. How's that transition been?
Well, I am with a company called Patriot Tactical, and they are the lead sponsor of these events. The first one I attended was in Houston, and let's be perfectly honest, man, anybody who likes food likes wrestling. So, it's kind of a family atmosphere, these cookouts, and I have a stake in Patriot Tactical. I'm the CEO, I'm the president, And, it truly gives me, not only is it business oriented, but it truly gives me the opportunity to shake the hands of the people who put me in the position that I'm at. Because you can't get a more wholesome event than than a barbecue contest, right?
Talk about being with the veterans, how much that means to you too, Bill. I mean, obviously professional football, professional wrestling, the military, that's something that we have great respect for. I know that I have massive respect for the military. How's that been for you so far? Getting a chance to see those guys too and shake hands and touch palms with those dudes.
Well, you and I, yes, we have respect. But unfortunately, these days, first responders are not at the top of the list of receiving respect from the public. And that shit needs to change, period. End of story. Because you couldn't do your podcast, you couldn't play football, I couldn't throw dudes around the ring, and I sure as hell, couldn't do anything else if these people who don't know who we are put their lives on the line every single day so that we can live, a normal life. So to me, there is no better time spent than thanking the people who protect your freedom, especially with, 250 coming up, it's a very, very tense time we have, whether it's, dealing with the war, whether it's dealing on the home front. And, it's a sorry state that we're in, man, I think. So I'm going to try to do something about it.
Bill, 250, United States, 250. Are you going to do anything? Are you going to have anything planned? Are we going to see anything from Triple H? Are we going to maybe see something special? Because I see that smirk right now. I don't know. There could be something being worked out here right now for 250 coming up at Bill Goldberg, no?
I'm not leading into that one. I'm not going to be at the UFC, fighting at the White House. I'm not doing anything for WWE by any stretch of the imagination. But what I am doing is I'm holding a private cookout here at Goldberg's garage for 40 of the first responders who were first on scene at the Mystic floods last year here in Texas. And unfortunately, we have 200 acres here, but I'd love to invite all of them, but we're going to have to do it in shifts. So every 6 months, I'm going to do a cookout sponsored by a number of large corporations, but it's a private deal here at the garage. The sheriff's coming, the chief of police is coming, local dignitaries are coming, and we're not publicizing the hell out of it. This is the first time that I've made mention of it to the public, but it's just a way of saying thank you. And we're not looking for content. We're not looking for anything else. We're looking for a reaction on a first responder's face when they look in my eyes and they look in other people's eyes who have no ulterior motive, just to say thank you.
You mentioned something about WWE just now, and may I say something, and you can disagree with me on this. Bill, I think that ending on how they sent you out, I'm sorry, dude. I watched it, and I was actually disgusted by it. I didn't think they cut away from it, and they didn't let you get a chance. I mean, that's not a guy that's 173-0 to be able to send him out like that and had an impact. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, Bill. Maybe you thought it was great. I thought it was disrespectful to you.
Yeah, I haven't mentioned a lot of it, but yeah, no question. It was extremely disrespectful. It was something that I kind of knew was going to happen, but I was hoping it wouldn't. And, the reality is they control the television, and you can segment, you can strategically place extra time at the end before you have to go off the air and move into the next program. Right. So, yeah, I was pretty pissed off. I'll take it to my grave. But I'm not going to bitch and moan. It is what it is. And it's WWE disrespecting a WCW wrestler that was kicking their ass in the Monday Night Wars, and that's the last time that they think that they can, throw shade on me. So, but the fact is that the fans know the deal, and the fans are the only ones I care about. And they can go ahead and do their little soap opera BS all they want, and I just live my life, man. I segue to the next thing, and I don't dwell on past negativity. For the most part. And, it's very disappointing. It was disappointing for my family. It was disappointing for my fans. It was disappointing for me. But, it is what it is.
Bill, do you really think that I actually do know this question? I mean, I look at it. WCW guys were always disrespected by Vince and Triple H now, I would imagine, because of what you guys were doing with those wars. Ted Turner just passed away. I know you worked with him. I'd like to get your thoughts on what you thought of Ted Turner, because I actually signed a contract with WCW and Ole Anderson and Cowboy Bob Orton to train at that gym. And I was going to become a professional wrestler. And I loved those guys at WCW, Vader and all them guys. Do you, again, just give me your thoughts on Ted Turner and the battles between WCW and WWE.
Ted was an innovator, man. He built his empire based upon professional wrestling, I believe. And he loved it. He lived it. He breathed it. It was part of him. And he was, like I said, an innovator. And the things that he was able to do at that time gave WWE, WWF a competitor, a viable competitor. And not only were we a competitor, we were kicking their ass. So, resenting that fact and keeping it in the back of their minds so that when they can pull the trigger, on something like my retirement, they always look back into something like that. And I think it definitely plays into their decisions to do what they do. And it just shows how small-minded they are and how cheesy they are, kind of like Lane Kiffin.
That's my man. We're going to continue more here with Bill Goldberg. Don't forget my great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the #1 injury law firm in all of America for a reason. They are the #1 injury law firm in America. And this, folks, I'll tell you, with over $30 billion recovered. Pennsylvania, I told you about the family that got $650K initially. They got $26 million in settlement. Or the family in Florida that was offered $350K. They got nearly $12 million in settlement. John and Ultima Morgan started this company over 25 years ago, folks, and defending families like yours. Go to forthepeople.com/Big Sills or Pound Law 529. That's forthepeople.com/Big Sills or Pound Law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them that Big Sills sent you. By the way, we're going to continue more of our conversation with the legendary Bill Goldberg. 173-0. And I'm sorry, folks. I saw the ending to that thing, and I was like, wait a minute here. What do we got going on here, man? This is Goldberg. You're not doing that to my guy. We'll talk more with Bill next. Keep it right here on SportsGrid. I guess when you go into retirement, you become a philanthropist, and also too, you become an author, you become an activist now. Wait a minute, am I going to see Bill Goldberg on The View? Here he is with us now. Here.
Hell no. Unless I can spear everybody on that show.
Hey, Bill, man, you got a book coming out, huh? Tell us about the book coming out.
A buddy of mine and I are working on something right now that's definitely needed in today's society. A guy named Michael Harper, who is the founder of Patriot Tactical. He's an extremely accomplished dentist out in Scottsdale. And, he brought me on about a year ago, and we have the same kind of train of thought. And we've been working on this project, and for right now, it's got a title of from domesticated to dangerous, reclaiming masculinity in a culture that wants you weak. Can you relate to that, Sileo?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Exactly.
Yes. Absolutely, man. I dig this. All right, here, man. Bill, do you like today's professional wrestling and how, you know what? Back in the day, man, it just seemed more blood and guts, there was more like work and there were more workers. I don't know. It's more made for television today. Back then, man, it was just great workers, road warriors, yourself. I mean, do you like where it is today?
I will be perfectly honest with you. I'm the last one to pass judgment on it because I don't watch it. Except for the fact that obviously I scroll through the news and I see a couple articles and I'll click on them every once in a while. And, a couple guys they got there are wonderful, but beyond that, it's nothing like it was when I was there. It's nothing like it was when I was at WCW. You don't have superheroes walking around in the backstage by any stretch of the imagination. They're kind of fabricated. It's more based on drama now than it is the physical aspect of it. And, one thing that just shows me how much it's changed. Back in the day, as Hogan told me, you can't overexpose yourself, right? And you can't show up every Monday Nitro. And when I did, it was a surprise and people were floored, right? And nowadays, they announce who's going to be there, right? So the element of surprise, yeah, I mean, they may throw you a curveball, but the element of surprise of cool, big name stars showing up out of nowhere is kind of gone. And, for me, that's wrong. You got to pay these people back by showing up when you're not advertised and giving them something really to cheer for. And, in a simple microcosm, that to me is kind of the biggest difference in the business right now. They want to tell you everything and try to entertain you. And, look at it. TKO took it over. And I don't know how much wrestling fans they are, but quite obviously the bottom line is more important than I think the product at this point. So we see roster cuts, we see different angles going this way and that way, and it's just nothing like it used to be, man. It's nothing like it used to be. It's a shame.
I had a story, Bill, told to me by Vader, Leon White, another former NFL guy as well. And he told me that he was completely bombing, but he had to go through the ropes. He goes over to Japan. They put the helmet on him, and voila, overnight, he's a star. But he said that he had to go through the roles and he had to go through the banging of being a professional wrestler. I talked to Hawk numerous times. The Road Warriors were bombing. All of a sudden, Ole puts the shoulder pads on him. And by the way, those were Georgia Bulldog shoulder pads that he ended up putting on him. And you know what?
Sure.
And all of a sudden, do you think you guys today, the guys today, go through the same type of roles and the same type of road that you guys went to get to where they need to? Because you guys plugged a lot of miles and you guys were on a lot of road trips to get where you were.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can't really speak to that because I don't know behind the scenes. I don't know exactly what the hell's going on. I don't know if house shows are prominent anymore. I believe they're not. But, it's hard for me to pass judgment because I'd like to rag on them as much as humanly possible, but I'm not informed enough to answer that
But
question.
why don't you watch, Bill? But Bill, why don't you watch anymore? Why don't you watch a sport that you were so dominant in? Why don't you watch it?
Come on, man. It's like watching the View. Hey, I want to watch guys beating the dog shit out of each other. I want to watch fights. I want to watch football. I'm fully engulfed into the hockey playoffs right now. Gage, my boy's home from Colorado. He's out running somewhere on the ranch right now, and my focus is I'm pretty much laser focused towards he and his career at this moment, and so I have no time for wrestling, man. I mean, this is my time to get to the people. This is my time to say thank you to all the people around the world that, put me in the position that I'm in. So I've been doing a couple of signings and I'm doing things that are kind of out of the ordinary for me, but it's the only way that I can give back. And my voice needs to be heard, I believe. And that's why this book is going to be completed here soon. And that's why I'm jumping on board with a couple initiatives right now that I think my voice needs to be heard. And being behind the veterans is first and foremost on my list, behind Gage, and college football, where it is these days. We could talk for hours on that, but the veteran thing, it needs to change.
Michael Jordan made a comment in 30 seconds here, Bill. I mean, he said that, when he was away so long, now you get a chance to give back to your kids and your family now. And, you get a chance to be a dad again. That's probably part of the retirement now that you're really glad about. 30 seconds.
Absolutely. No question. I mean, your family is the most important thing in your entire life. And I wish that I had more time. And I wish that, earlier in my career that I was able to spend more time with them. But now I'm making up for that. And it's the best time well spent, man. And I'm truly honored to be able to take my family to events like we went to this last weekend and, just spend some quality time with them.
Dude, it's been awesome talking with you again, man. I can't wait to see what's ahead for Bill Goldberg. I can't wait to see you in this book. Thank you so much, brother. I love the hell out of you, man. You always find time for me. Thank you, Bill Goldberg. We have
Love
a
you,
weirdo
Sileo. You be good.
Thank you, Bill. I didn't really even know where to go with this segment here, but I'm going to try. Cockfighting. Okay, so, Edwin Diaz of the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is like weirdo alert, folks. I'm going to try to be as PG as possible in this. So here's Edwin Diaz. The cockfighting arena is like my home. Now, excuse me here, but I'm making sure that I'm reading verbatim what this guy has been saying about cockfighting. Okay? Now, let me get this right. This is a thing. It's not a sport. This is a thing that animals scratch each other's eyes out to death. Am I right? And you have lunatics sitting in the arena, eating hot dogs and hamburgers and drinking beers, watching animals tear each other apart. And this is his passion. So just to make it, again, I'm being as sensitive as I can here. So, like in Puerto Rico, since 2019, cockfighting is illegal. But Edwin Diaz of the Dodgers, I don't think got the memo. It's illegal in Puerto Rico to have cockfighting. Now, he also made this comment here. My rooster went down dead. Then he gets up and he fights, doing what my roosters know how to do. Finish fights. He did what I do when I come in to pitch in the ninth inning. I close out the game. That's his analogy. Cockfighting. His rooster taking out another rooster. And he thinks this is normal. Hey, look, he wanted to be perfectly clear when I did this segment. Hey, he really loves baseball. But man, this guy really loves cockfighting. Holy cow. Don't get in the way of Edwin Diaz's cockfighting. Man, you talk about a passion. You talk about something to be proud of. Watching animals tear each other apart and sitting there and calling it a sport. How about the fact that it's creepy, dude? How about the fact that, well, it's wrong and illegal and you're a tool? How in God's name does this guy, but then again, professional athletes being oblivious to reality, this is the quintessential guy for it. Wait a minute, cockfighting's illegal? You don't understand cockfighting, Sileo? No, I don't. Watching animals rip each other apart and then sitting there going, did you see my cockfighting guy? Did you see my rooster? My rooster is the head cockfighter. Are you crazy? Dude, and this guy calls it his passion. Where's Rob Manfred when you need him? Dude, this guy is involved with illegal animal abuse, and he doesn't think it is. And he's a pitcher for the LA Dodgers. But then again, let's not forget the Dodgers got all kinds of things going on with them. Shohei Ohtani's old bookie or whatever, spending 57 months in the dink. Oh, and I love Ohtani. I love Major League Baseball's take on this guy here too. His former translator. Hey, you and I check our accounts like every, day to see how much money we have in our bank account. Boy, it must be dope to be Shohei Ohtani. I missed $3 million in my account. No, I didn't miss it. Oh, I know what $3 is out of my account. Ohtani's like, yeah, I didn't know anything about this. Hey, but then again, that's the Los Angeles Dodgers. They got a cockfighting guy, and they got a guy who's not a gambler, but yet his buddy has been in the dink for 57 months for taking money and owing him now $17 million. What a group you got going there, Andrew Friedman. He's the president and GM of the Dodgers. This is the Dodgers? No wonder. I can't wait to talk to Bob Nightengale on this. Hey, when we get Bob Nightengale on, Edwin Diaz, cockfighting arena is like my home. Hey, I wonder how Bob will look at that. We're going to talk to him in a couple minutes here, man. But holy cow, look at this here. Edwin Diaz is linked to illegal cockfighting per USA Today. It's illegal in Puerto Rico. I mean, yeah, a federal ban on cockfighting took effect in Puerto Rico in 2019. There are other Major League Baseball stories other than this Edwin Diaz story, and we're going to talk with our friend Bob Nightengale and get his take on Major League Baseball and where it is right now. And I'll tell you what, the National League, they got some big teams right here on SportsGrid. I usually don't start a segment out with my great friend Bob Nightengale from USA Today on cockfighting, but I mean, here we are with Edwin Diaz. Bob Nightengale joins us now. And what'd you make of that story? I mean, USA Today even put it out there too. They ran an excerpt of what he said, but I mean, your takeaway here, Bob, what do you make of this?
Well, I think it's unfortunately a part of the culture in Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. I don't think he knew it was illegal. I mean, obviously it's going on. I'm sure it's a lot of ball players, live athletes, that are from there. Not say a lot, but participate. So I asked MLB. I said, you going to investigate or anything? They said no. Unless he was gambling with a bookie, that's illegal. But the fact he was right there doing it, certainly frowned upon, but there won't be any discipline or anything like that.
Dodgers won't take any disciplinary because, again, animal rights, I'm sure will be knocking on the Dodgers' door. It's California.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, I mean, any backlash against the Dodgers, though, with that when it comes to animal rights?
Well, yeah, another animal rights activists have already, sent letters to Rob Manfred, to the Dodgers, to the jockeys as far as with the Preakness and stuff, to have them ban things like that. I don't think it went anywhere, but yeah, they have reached out to all the parties.
All right, Bob, I got to start out with one of our favorite teams here, the New York Metropolitans here. Is this the worst baseball team since the expansion year?
It's a bad one. I mean, certainly it's more disappointing than the expansion year because expansion year is supposed to be bad. They have the highest payroll in baseball. They're supposed to be good. But yeah, bad year, and then they're getting bad luck too. Clay Holmes, breaking his leg. Now they can't even trade him at the trade deadline because he won't have pitched before August 3rd. So yeah, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong for the Mets.
David Stearns, I liked him when he was in Milwaukee. I mean, this guy seems to know how to build a roster. He did a great job, I thought, up in Milwaukee. What's gone wrong for him in New York? I mean, is it just construction of the roster that he made just poor gambles?
Yeah, I mean, some of the guys he acquired are injury prone. They got Polanco from Seattle. He's already missed more games in 7 weeks than Pete Alonso's missed in 7 years. So that was a horrible thing. Tried different things. Tried, Devin Williams instead of Diaz. That's worked out fine. Williams had a bad start. They're not hitting. Not like Pete Alonso's turned the cover off the ball in Baltimore, but still he was a big time threat. So he's trying to do it his way, and they want to be a consistent winner. But hey, it's a city for stars. It's like Dave Dombrowski says, people want to watch teams with big stars. And that's why you see the teams that Dombrowski's built over the years always has those big stars. Where I think Dave Stearns kind of trying to do in the margins and keep knock the payroll down and keep a consistent winner, but it hasn't worked out, obviously.
No, it hasn't, Ter. So you mentioned the Phillies. So Kyle Schwarber's got 40 bombs. I saw your X account, 40 bombs, 45 games. He's on pace right now to hit 20 bombs in 45 games. He's on pace for 70 home runs right now. I mean, you think this guy's capable of making this thing happen where he could flirt with 70?
It's possible. It'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, certainly is in a plays in a bandbox. If you're going to hit home runs, is hit them there. So he can be a streaky guy too. So we'll see what happens. But it's not like it's a fluke. I mean, this guy's a big time power hitter, and he hit 56 home runs last year. So he can certainly hit over 60 for sure.
Is he a Hall of Fame player, Bob? Kyle Schwarber?
I think it'd be tough. I think you'd almost have to hit over 600 home runs. Just the batting average is just so low. I think it'd be tough for him to get in. He would have to play probably into his 40s, and like I said, probably have to hit over 600. I'm not even sure 500 would do it. I don't think it would. I think it'd have to be over 600.
Bob, do you agree then? You just mentioned something interesting here. You think 500 home runs nowadays, that's a surefire thing that you're going to make it to the Hall of Fame? Because now, what's also changed is now in baseball and pitching. I mean, if you get to 200 wins, that's almost a lock that you're going to go to the Baseball Hall of Fame, where in years past it was 300 or 250 north of that would get you potentially into the Hall of Fame. Those numbers have changed both in pitching and in hitting, right? I mean, you hit 500 home runs, Bob. That's not going to guarantee you're going to get to the Hall of Fame.
No, I mean, look at, Fred McGriff had to wait for the Veterans Committee. He hit 493, and he was 30 to 100 every single year. He should have been in first ballot, I thought. I think it'd be a big test, this year, Danny, in the sense that John Lester's on the ballot. He's got about, I think he's 200 wins on the nose. We'll see, how the voters treat him. Very good postseason. Adam Wainwright, I think he's eligible a year later. Same thing, 200 wins. So we'll find out soon enough, whether the standards have dropped, to 200.
Yeah, because if you look at Verlander, I don't think anybody's going to get north of his number, right? There's nobody because of the way they pitch today. Now it's 5 2/3. Years past, it was 7 2/3. A lot of dudes with a ton of complete games. You don't see that anymore. So that number is going to change. I mean, Verlander, I think he's north of 260 victories, if I'm not mistaken. So you're probably not going to see a guy north of that number, right?
I don't think so. I mean, he was really trying to become the first or probably the last 300 game winner. I don't think it's not going to happen now. Just, age has caught up to him. He's 42, 43 years old on the injury list. But no, I agree. I don't think anyone's going to pass 250. It's just guys come out of games too early. People are worried about pitch counts and things like that. I mean, it's so ridiculous now, Danny. You look at the wins leader. It's Aaron Ashby, the Milwaukee Brewers. He's a reliever, and he's got 2 more wins than anybody else in baseball.
That is crazy and how that dynamic's changed. One more thing on the Phillies here. Dave Dombrowski, do you think he reconsiders? And maybe do you think Don Mattingly reconsiders? Because they've been playing some really good ball since he's been put in there as the manager. I mean, do they reconsider this whole thing? I know his kid works in the front office as well there with Dave Dombrowski. Does Don Mattingly maybe reconsider it, especially if they get to the postseason?
Well, I think, wait till the end of the season, see how far they go. If they get to the World Series, if they win the World Series, then does Mattingly want to go out on top, particularly since he's never won a ring? I would think he might want to do that, saying that what a perfect way to step away. So we'll see. And the schedule has been very favorable to the Phillies, too. They stink against left-handed starters, and I think they've only faced a couple now, since Mattingly's taken over. And the schedule was much, much weaker since he took over than it was, with Rob Thompson, the last 10, 15 games. So that's where they won all five series. But, yeah, we'll have a better test, I think, in the Phillies, in the next month when the schedule starts to get tougher again.
If I had to ask you here in 30 seconds here, Don Mattingly or Thurman Munson, Hall of Famer, who would you take?
It would be Mattingly. Just Munson's career unfortunately was short, just barely 10 years. It would be Mattingly. But then you look at I had lunch a couple weeks ago with Keith Hernandez. Look at his numbers compared to Mattingly. They're right there. Then you start saying, well, should Hernandez be in there? I know he's got a higher WAR with 11 Gold Gloves. So, but between those two, I'd go Mattingly over Munson.
Boy, yeah, that's right. Keith Hernandez also, if I'm not mistaken, he shared an MVP award with Willie Stargell back in the day, too. So he's a guy that's got an MVP award. Don Mattingly, I'd like to see him in the Hall of Fame one day. We're going to continue more of our conversation with Bob Nightengale, USA Today, right here on SportsGrid.
I know you didn't. Talk!
I'm innocent.
Got the wrong guy. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Okay, it was me. I did it.
Bringing an owl to an interrogation? That's a power move.
Every time.
Yeah. Hiring America's largest injury law firm for your injury? That's also a power move. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury...
My baseball guru is Bob Nightengale from USA Today. I just love talking baseball with him. We were talking Yankees just a couple minutes ago. Yankees got some bad news. Max Fried is going to be on the shelf for a little bit here. How much impact do you think that has since the Yankees have been getting surprising pitching early on in the part of the season so far?
Yeah, at least they have the depth because they're trying to figure out who comes out of the rotation. You bring a Will Warren on the rotation. What do you do here? Now he sticks in the rotation. You know, Freed should be fine. I saw they had a second exam. That was good. So he'll get re-examined here. He's probably going to be out for a couple of months. But, maybe they're doing like the Dodgers where now he'll have a fresh arm come the pennant stretch and be fresh come October.
How good is this duo between Rice and with Aaron Judge, in your opinion? I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say Mantle Maris, but I mean, we're talking maybe something, is it something like Big Papi and what Manny Ramirez was, something like that when you're looking at these two, or no?
No, definitely. I mean, you got to give Rice more time to see if he can keep this up like Judge does. But no, absolutely, really cool to see the two of them do it together. And who knows if Harper starts hitting some more home runs, we can say the same thing about Schwarber and Harper. But yeah, it's special with Judge taking Rice under his wings, and both of them are stars. I mean, obviously, Judge is going to the Hall of Fame, and we'll see what kind of career Ben Rice builds for himself.
I can't remember, and this is why you're here, Bob, because you're the historian here. When's the last time both Chicago teams were above 500? I get the Cubs, but the White Sox, I mean, where the hell did they come from?
Yeah, I actually looked this up the other day. It was June of 2008. It's amazing. I mean, the White Sox had some good years there, and it's always been one team or the other has been good, and their team stinks in town. So yeah, cool to see. They're ahead of schedule. The White Sox. I don't see it lasting. They're in a weak division, probably the weakest division in baseball. But I still think, they're still a year away where they can be a contender, in 2 years before they can be, a real serious contender. But I don't expect them to keep it up. But fun to see. Fun to see Murakami hit 2 more home runs last night. Now he's got 17. So he's taking Chicago by storm.
How surprised are you? I keep asking you this question about that Padres team. They keep making wins and they keep rolling wins out there, Bob. I mean, are you surprised where they are right now? We're 40 plus games now.
I'm surprised where they are considering that Machado and Tatis have really done nothing. Tatis has got as many home runs as you and I do, 0. And Machado is off to the worst start of his career, hitting, under 230, not much power and stuff, but they're still getting it done. Piecemeal that rotation. Walker Buehler has done very well for them, getting him off the scrap heap. And obviously, they can turn those games into a 5-inning affair. You have the lead after 5. Good luck, getting a run off that bullpen.
Hey, do you think that the Cubs could threaten the Dodgers for the National League pennant? I mean, are you buying them that much that they could threaten the Dodgers?
No, they need another starter. They need another big-time starter in that rotation, or else they're not going to have a chance against the Atlanta, the Dodgers, or even Philly if they make it. If they get her started, that's okay, yeah. But right now, I still think Atlanta and the Dodgers are the 2 best teams in the National League. Atlanta might be better actually, and the Brewers. And the Brewers are just a game and a half behind the Cubs, and they've had all kinds of injury problems. And those 2 teams play each other at Wrigley Field beginning Monday, so that'd be a fun series.
I love this weekend, Bob, where you see like the Subway Series. You got the Bay Series going on between the A's and the Giants. You see some regional battles that, back in the old day, we used to see that on the Game of the Week with Garagiola and Tony Kubek. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that old school stuff. Do you like that in what baseball has done scheduling-wise this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think once they have realignment, whenever expansion rolls around, then we'll see a lot more of it. Well, I think you'll have the, Yankees and Mets in the same division, Cubs, White Sox, Dodgers, Angels, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's fun, but particularly fun for the fans. It's not as meaningful as it was before they changed the schedule. Now everybody plays everybody, during the season. Before, it was always this rival and nothing else because you didn't have the same type of interleague play.
That's funny. When I grew up, I loved the fact that the National League, American League teams didn't play because every time the All-Star game came, that's when you saw like, oh my God, there's Johnny Bench. Because the only time you ever saw him is if he ever showed up at Shea. You knew he wasn't going to show up at Yankee unless he was in the World Series there. So, all right, Bob, I'll put you on the spot here. 40 games in, your opinion, who is the best pitcher in baseball?
It's funny because the National League Cy Young is wide open. I'll go Paul Skeens. But you look at the National League and you got Paul Skeens, you got Ohtani, you got, Chris Sale, Christopher Sanchez of Philadelphia. It's unbelievable. But I'll go, Paul Skeens. I mean, right now, he's got a sub, 2 ERA in his career. And every time he takes a mound, you think he's going to throw no hitter.
Absolutely. All right. Who's the best player in baseball right now?
I'd probably still stick with Judge. I don't see, one guy, leapfrogging him. There's guys having better years than Judge right now, but I'll still go Aaron Judge. Just what he means to that team and, what he means to the game and everything else. But I don't see one player I'll say I'll take over Aaron Judge. I don't.
Hey, so, Bob, you're more of a guy, it seems like to me, that you're going to add him up in the end, not after 40, right? We're adding him up at the end of the season, and you think Judge is going to be the guy at the end of the year with Ohtani again. It's a two-horse race again, right?
It is. Ohtani's not having a good year at all offensively, pitching-wise. So it's very possible he wins the Cy Young and does not get the MVP. So we'll see. But he's in the Cy Young conversation. That'd be fascinating to see, what he does the rest of the way. He's got an 0.82 ERA.
So wait a minute. He gets a couple, 3 MVPs now, National League MVPs, and he ends up getting a Cy Young? Yeah, Bob, that's a modern-day Babe Ruth. And that would be one of the greatest and most incredible things I've ever seen in my entire life. Bob Nightengale, you were absolutely spectacular. Thank you so much for doing this. It's going to be a great run till we get to the All-Star break. Thank you very much, Bob.
Take care, Danny.
You got it. Final thoughts right here on SportsGrid. Okay, so our friend LaFraud James is back in the news again. And, listen, I want to be very candid about how I look at LeBron James. Tremendous basketball player, one of the greatest of all time, one of the top 5 guys that will ever be in a conversation when you're naming a guy who you believe will be the best. My guy, obviously, I'm a Jordan dude. It's probably generational. You could even say Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But I want to show you why LaFraud James is so petty. So there was a story in ESPN that came out in March, and it was tensions building between the Lakers and LaFraud James, Maverick Carter, and his group. Now, look, you can be petty again at times. You could be a guy who's going to be a little bit, of a guy that's going to worry about his legacy. So there was a game ball that was going to be given out, and it was a night where LeBron James, I want to get this right here, most combined wins. He passed Jabbar for the most combined wins of any player in NBA history. So on this March 31st, they defeated the Cavaliers here. And LeBron feels the Lakers took him for granted because Rob Pelinka gave the game ball to J.J. Redick instead. Now, that would be the equivalent of Tom Brady wanting a game ball after he beat the New York Jets. Now, look, I get it. The accolades that LeBron is building is second to none. He's the greatest longevity player. I'll give him this. In NBA history, nobody has performed at an age like this and put up the numbers that LeBron has put up. His longevity streak will go down in history, along with Brady and what Brady did in the National Football League, excelling at such an age. No question. However, dude, the conversation is over. You will never be in the conversation of the greatest player of all time. That is already in cement. It's Michael Jordan. And not only that, even Jordan hates the conversation of the GOAT. Nobody on the planet talks about being the best player on the planet except for LeBron James. Tom Brady doesn't even talk about the great accolades in his career. He talks about his team. He talks about the wins. He talks more about the losses. See, the NBA player does not get the same scrutiny that the NFL player gets. NFL player is covered harder than what the NBA guys are, because you know why? There's so few superstars in that sport that they want to make sure they have access to those sports, to those superstars. So they're not going to piss them off. Well, and that's why they run that league. The NFL guy is covered way harder. Can you imagine Wayne Gretzky bitching over not getting a game puck? This guy is so petty. Dude, the conversation isn't between you and Jabbar or Jordan. The conversation is between whether or not you're even better than Kobe. In a 48-minute basketball game, you give me Mamba, and I'll win that basketball game. I'll take Kobe Bryant over that dude. It's funny. The longer he stays in the sport and the more accolades and the more points he keeps piling up, the lesser I think of him. I think LaFraud has done a great job with marketing. I told people this all the time. If you had a college class that you were going to teach on how to build a brand, LeBron James is your guy. That's how you build a brand. A guy who couldn't even with his mom, single mom, pay rent. They couldn't pay for groceries. And you look at him today, this guy's a billionaire. Never really hurt his brand. And on top of that, has never been arrested or done anything to hurt his image on how people look at him. But how people see him, he's not genuine. LaFraud James will go down as one of the pettiest guys of all time. He feels disrespected because he didn't get a game ball. Dude, you're the all-time leading scorer in the NBA and you don't act like it. You won 4 NBA championships and you don't act like it. You know, you want to be considered the greatest player, but you don't act like it. You act like the most pettiest player of all time. Dude, when you're the king, you don't go around telling people you're the king. They know you're the king. When you're the best at what you do, you don't go around telling people, hey, did you like this? Did you like what I did today? What'd you make of my game? Dude, you know that already. That's the confidence you have in yourself. LeBron James needs others patting him on the back, telling him how great he is for his confidence or lack thereof. Man, talk about petty. LeBron never ceases to amaze, and he never ceases to keep giving. No way, man. I appreciate you guys very much. We'll see you next weekend. Catch you on the flip side.